freaks out there. This is Gray Hughes of Gray Hughes Investigates on YouTube. And if you're wondering why I said freaks, well, that's what the people on my channel call ourselves. Because we're freaks. We're weirdos. What the hell are we doing here? I don't belong here. Anyways, what we do on my channel is we try to use factual information at all times to come up with the most reasonable and logical depiction of what happened in a crime. Like, we come up with theories that are based on logic. I have a saying that I came up with years ago where I said, you know how people say, think outside the box. And I say, yes, fill a box with facts and then think outside of it. And you'll be way more accurate when the time comes where we all realize what happened in a case, at a trial, or when an arrest is made, etc. If you go with the factual information, you'll likely be way more accurate. You're not always right, but you're way more right than the conspiracy nutjob people, okay? Those conspiracies and crazy cover-ups are very rare. They do happen. I know they happen. However, they're very rare, so you being right about a conspiracy is very unlikely. And I don't see any elements in this case of a conspiracy. People have to do mental gymnastics, literally just some wild thinking to try to come up with something like that. It's unreal. It's unreal. So anyways, today is an exclusive look at the route that Bryan Kohberger took. Now, I believe the killer is Bryan Kohberger. If you don't believe it's Bryan Kohberger and you think it's somebody else, and there just happened to be a car that matched his exactly outside the house, so let's just say the killer left the 1122 King Road address right here at around between 4:17 and 4:20 in the morning on November 13th, 2022, just after Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Gonzalez were all murdered. And I believe Bryan Kohberger is the killer. Other people don't believe that. You're entitled to believe what you want and use, facts that don't really exist to explain your story. Or, see, here's the thing, what people do in the conspiracy world is they use facts, but they're facts that they then irresponsibly connect to some element of a case, and there isn't one. So you might say, yes, there were 3 kids in Banfield, but there's no other connection to them whatsoever to the crime, but people want you to look at them differently. Ooh, look, they look older. They're agents of some sort. Right? What does that even mean to anybody? What connection could they possibly have when the white Elantra that was doing its loops didn't get there until 3:26, and that was even on Indian Hill Road, and then 3:28, and then around 3:30 it pulls into the area, and those kids were at 3 o'clock at Banfield. They have absolutely nothing to do with this, all right? It's unbelievable. Anyways, so Kohberger left the house on this patio right here, because that's where the sliding glass door into the kitchen is. And here's an image of the house. So when Kohberger left, he would walk through the sliding glass door right there. As you can see up here, that's Kaylee Gonzalez's room, and that's Madison Mogen's bedroom right there. And he came out the sliding glass door. If we were going to look at it from a headshot, we could probably just scroll forward right near the end and go downstairs. And then right here, this is when he's leaving the kitchen, goes through the sliding glass door. And then from there, he comes out that sliding glass door, up the bank here, gets into his vehicle, and heads away at a high rate of speed. Remember, at around 4:07, the vehicle, that's me looking stern. Anyways, the vehicle comes around right here behind 500 Queen Road and comes around this direction. That's my son there. Comes around like right here. Then the vehicle likely parked over in this area around 4:08. That's Genesis back there. He helped me navigate around the areas especially when we went out on this drive. You'll be seeing here in a minute. So the vehicle parked here and could see right into the house. Went in and killed all of them between 4:08 and 4:20. When I say all of them, I mean all the people that were killed. The 4 individuals that were killed. We know that Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen survived in their rooms in the house and were not killed. Again, conspiracy wackos think that they're part of the case somehow and they're involved in the murders, and it just makes absolutely no sense at all. Don't you think law enforcement or the FBI could have found some forensic information tying them, since those individuals aren't criminology doctorate students? Yeah, that's what I thought. So anyways, Kohberger leaves the house right here, through the sliding glass door, onto the patio, then up, gets into his car, and then he leaves at a high rate of speed. And what you'll see after this is the entire route. And I'll also show you that there is, in fact, between 13 and 16 minutes, could even be a little bit longer, missing time. And you'll see how I explain it later. It's pretty crazy because I'm driving at a regular pace here and even a little bit slower when I'm driving on the highway and out of this area. Okay? So if you guys could hit the like button for me, share and subscribe, I would really appreciate it. Okay, so here we go with the long route back home to Pullman, Washington. This is the full route, and what it's going to show is some of it will be in the darkness, and then I switch over to light video when we travel across, where he tried to not go into Genesee or Genesee, however you pronounce that town. He didn't want to go into those main towns down south, so he cut across on these dirt roads, and that's exactly what law enforcement has in the PCA document. All right, so let's take a look at that right now. Okay, so here is the full-length video here. As you can see on the screen right now, that's the overlay that I put using the probable cause document, and I overlaid it on Google Earth. And in a moment, you'll see the green outline. Those are the roads that matched what the probable cause document says. There's only a few spots like down here where it's a little off, but apparently he just kind of drew the line with his hand on the map, kind of following along. But that's where they generally believe he went, on this route right here. And now I have the green outline of just what I have on Google Earth using the route function, where it actually puts the line right on the street where it's supposed to be. So right there, this is picking up right where that 360-degree video left off, but just at night. And it headed down away from 1122 King Road and just past 1112 King Road, where there's a camera, and this whole movement here will be caught on a camera. And then it's heading out to Taylor Avenue, and you can see Sigma Chi right there. It's just right across the street. That's Banfield just off to your right. And now we're heading up, still on Taylor Avenue, and then right now it switches over to Willanta Drive, and it heads up. And this is basically the same route that he would use to do the loops. Each time he passed 4 different times. And this is the same route generally. And take a left right here. And soon he takes a right. Now this is one of the places I'm not sure if he, on each of the passes, he turned right coming up here in a moment, or he continued to go straight. Each one of them works. So if you kept going left right there, that would work. And if you go right here, and then you take a left on this next street right here, it would go exactly to the same place that, had you taken the left just prior to that, would have gone. And now we're heading to Conestoga. So basically, right when he gets on Conestoga, he stays on Conestoga the entire time. Now you see over in the upper right hand corner, I have a map where I have a dot, and I just kind of move it to various places just so you can get a general idea of where we are at all times. So we're on Conestoga now, and in a minute here. Oh, that one actually animated. That was pretty interesting. I like that. And staying on Conestoga, in a moment here, it just sort of veer off a little bit, and a curve around, and then eventually we go straight down and make our way to Palouse River Drive. And I can just tell you, after being there multiple times, the first time I was there, I was driving around at night and I was absolutely lost back in here. But after 3 or 4 times going around, I absolutely figured it out, and now I can go there and know exactly where I'm going each and every time. And I think that's exactly what Bryan Kohberger was doing on those 12 trips when he went out there. I think he would go out there, practice what he was going to go do, got to know the area really well, and easily was able to find his way out of here. I mean, each of the passes I attempted to do early on, I got lost, because you get stuck in little cul-de-sacs, and you have to have your map out, and you have to stop and look. And then even when I was leaving to go on to Conestoga, first it was hard to find Conestoga, and then Conestoga has all these streets that go off of it, so you don't really know if it's supposed to turn or not. But after you've done it a couple times, you know exactly how to get from 1122 King Road to Palouse River Drive using Conestoga. Law enforcement believes that that's the route he took because he doesn't show up on the same surveillance cameras at various homes that he would have showed up on had he gone out a different way. So right now we're about to get to Highway 95. Now if you look at the clock up there, it's almost, now it's 4:24 and 14 seconds. So it only really takes 4 minutes and 20 seconds just driving at a normal rate of speed to get to Highway 95 from that house. And I'm just driving at a normal speed here. I'm not speeding. I'm not going fast. Yes, I got the speeding ticket, going 36 and a 25. I'm sorry for those out there that really think that that's a huge issue in the world. But I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to, everybody. Jesus. Apparently on one channel, they said that the cops should have shot me because I drove that fast. Isn't that amazing? Wow. Anyway, so right now we're on Highway 95, and it's 4:25. And again, on this map, I move the red dot to various locations every so often, just to show you where we're at on the map. And I'll try to call out various areas when we get by them. Now this is, I think, the long straightaway at the beginning. You can see on the map there, right to about this area. And you look and see that it's pretty dark out. There aren't street lights, and the only reason you can see the street at all is because I brightened up the video quite a bit and changed the contrast a little bit so that you can make out the street. You could barely even see the streets, you could only see the lights, it was so dark. And so right now we're just heading down the long Highway 95, and then once it cuts over, though, I switch to daylight video, and you'll be able to see the entire route that Kohberger took when he headed west across to cut across over to 195. He didn't want to be in the other larger towns in the area that likely had cameras, and I didn't see one car when I made this pass, as you might want to call it, across from 95 to 195. There wasn't one vehicle that entire time. So I would imagine at 4:30 in the morning or so, 4:35, you aren't going to see anybody. Absolutely, and it would be pitch black because there aren't even these type of lights that you're seeing here. Other vehicles, street signs that kind of light up and so forth. There is nothing out there. If you didn't have your headlights on, you wouldn't be able to see 20 feet, especially if it was cloudy and there was no moonlight. So we're just heading down right now. You can see up above where we are on the map. And when we get to around 4:32, that's when I literally have to skip it over to 448. Because at 432, I'm getting right close to just south of Blaine, where I think the ping happened. But that was actually at 448. And so I had to just switch it over to 448. And then the timing from 448, if you just look at the map, I'll show you, from 448 about right here, all the way around until he got to Johnson Avenue, where his vehicle was spotted at 525, the timing is perfect. You know, an average of 45 miles an hour. And there absolutely is 13 to 16 minutes of missing time. For example, if the 448 ping was earlier on the map, let's say 448 was a little bit south or north of Blaine, then there might even be some more missing time. So we have absolutely missing time. Now, is that where he threw away his the bloody knife and the bloody clothing? Maybe temporarily put it somewhere. Perhaps on one of his other trips he dug a hole somewhere at night, late at night. He digs a hole out there, gets it ready. And I'd love to know when the last time he was there prior to the murders. Was he there just a week before, a few days? That would be very interesting information. And when I say the house, in the area. He was in the area of 1122 King Road using the same resources. And we're just driving down the highway here. I hope you guys don't mind, like when I'm doing the call-in shows and I have somebody that calls in and the explanation they give for something is extremely unlikely and almost to the point of absurdity. I have a hard time just kind of letting it be, like I can't just go, oh wow, that's fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, that makes sense. I mean, every time I listen to people try to explain away certain things, the reasoning used is just, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why people do it. I mean, if it's something hard, like, for example, we had the nice lady Ginger call up, and she was talking about the, how the car drove around. It could have been a date, somebody dropping off a date. And then I said, no, but it was the same vehicle all 4 times. As the probable cause says, it was a white Elantra making 4 loops. It did 3 initial passes and then finished a 4th, but aborted it in the middle of the 4th, turned around, and then came back and then completed it. And the explanation was, yeah, sometimes people do that on dates. They keep driving around. Come on, you guys. Use common sense, logic, and reason. Just because something is possible doesn't mean it's something you should consider and really dive into it. We all think that maybe, aliens could have done it from, the star system, Zeta Minor out there. Maybe they, if they evolved 2 million years ago to develop flight and had 2 million years of time, they could have developed propulsion techniques that allow them to visit our planet, and they definitely could have be there. So if you believe in life on other planets, then it's possible that aliens did this, right? So let's spend the next 6 months discussing that. Okay, so just in a minute here, we're going to be, we're south of Blaine, just a little bit. We're west and south of Blaine. And there's a cell tower right in this location down here. And you'll see here in a minute, look at the clock, it says 4:32, and then I think in 20, 30 seconds or so, you'll see it just shift to 4:48, because that's the time it pinged over there, and I can't account for the 16 minutes of missing time. Now, the conspiracy people will say something like, well, that's just a different vehicle, Gray. That's just a different vehicle. And yet, it's Kohberger's phone that pings in the area. So obviously he's in his white Elantra, missing the front license plate. That was just in Moscow, Idaho. Driving around. He even admits it. There you go. So at 4:48, I switched it over to 4:48 right when it was 3:32. So the actual driving time, I didn't stop the driving time. I'm still driving a normal speed here. So that means that there are missing minutes. 16, I'd say 13 to 16 minutes. Could even be a little bit more of missing time on the route back prior to getting to the Blaine ping. Okay, the Blaine ping is when basically you start the clock again. So there's something missing. He went somewhere prior to reaching Blaine. I would say between Highway 95 start, just off of Palouse River Drive, and the ping in Blaine, there's 16 minutes of missing time. Where is the bloody knife? And where are the bloody clothing? Is it possible, though, that he buried those items and then went back later in that afternoon when we know his phone pinged at 5:32 to 5:36 near Johnson, Washington? Is it possible and somewhere during that pinging moment that he was recovering those items? Yeah, I mean, see, stuff like that's possible, right? And then it's like, well, shit, where would he have the bloody knife and the bloody clothing now? I think he actually wore gloves too. So as you can see, we're making our way around, and we'll be getting to the cutoff area pretty soon. I do switch over to daylight prior to cutting over, but not much before that. So right now it's 4:50 a.m. And I'm sorry that the clock up there is cut off slightly, but you should be able to see it. It's too close to the top of the 5 and the 0 and the 1 and the 4 and the seconds, you know. So 4 minutes 50 19 seconds now, but I think you can still read it. And also keep in mind that when we're driving across, there's a couple times where I took the wrong turn. Again, see, it's something that you have to have a map on, a mapping program, to really know what you're doing, or have driven this route multiple times. And so I got lost 3 times. I took the wrong turn, and then I turn around and come back, and then I turn on the right road, so I don't have the smooth transition onto the turn. And those are the times where I use an arrow. Okay, so I use an arrow to say, okay, this is where I was supposed to go, and then I'm right there on the road again. So I edited it where after I came back, turned around, and made the right turn, I edit those together, and those arrows will represent where those times happened. So as you can see, it's totally light out now. And we're going to be turning right not too long from now, and it's going to be, let's see, yeah, I at the time I wasn't sure which road it was, so I slowed down on a few different ones, but eventually found it, and it's coming up pretty soon here. Should be just around this corner here. Pull into that right lane there. And it's going to be I think it's Borgen Road that I'll be turning right on. And this is where law enforcement has him turning. So again, that wasn't the right one. I had to keep making sure that I was going to be able to turn, slow down, and look. Our mapping program, I think at the time, wasn't quite synced up correctly. And this is it right here. So I hope this is interesting to you guys. Well, that wasn't it. It's coming up though. It definitely is. I think it's right across the street from that building over there. And yes, this is Borgen Road, or Borgen, B-O-R-G-E-N. Now look at this road. Look how it's just dirt. And there isn't going to be anybody out here at 4:30 in the morning, 4:50, 5 o'clock. Nobody's moving around. It's possible if it was a little bit later there might be a farmer doing something, but at the same time it wasn't really farming season, it was winter, or late fall, I guess. As you can see, I'm still plotting it out down below. You'll see here in a minute it'll update and the red dot will be further west. And I'm going to try to follow this along on the map here, just to point out various things. Yeah. And for a moment there I stopped to check something, and I edited out the part where I stopped and then kept driving. And then soon we'll get to Kluss Road, but we're not turning onto that. We're just going to drive by it. It's actually really pretty out there. That's one thing I would say. It's very pretty. And I might upload a version where there's no map on the right and a clock, where you can just watch it and do what you want with it. I mean, just, something that's actually pretty to watch as well. It's just kind of creepy knowing that this is the route that law enforcement believes that Bryan Kohberger took after murdering all 4 of the victims. So there's going to be a Y coming up at some point here, where you take the left one. I mean, it's a really idyllic sort of look out here. I mean, look at that farm over there. I mean, that's unbelievable. You could probably just spend all day taking photographs of that place. And I think we made that turn right around 4:51-ish or something like that. So here's the Y. And we're going to take a left. It's 4:56 in the morning. And you can see I'm just driving at a pretty mellow pace here, and you really can't drive fast here because the ground is, it's dirt and it's kind of unstable. If you go around a turn, you might slide off if you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour into these ditches. So you just kind of have to maintain around 45 miles an hour, 40, 45, maybe even a little slower at times. And then soon we sort of hit the bottom. If you look on the map, it sort of has this point where it goes down. I mean, again, it's absolutely beautiful out there. And I think we're probably at the bottom of that point now, and then turn. Yeah, it does look like that. So now we're turning around, and then we're going to go straight up. It should be straightening out here in just a second. There you go. In a minute, the red dot will update again. And I think when you're watching this, you should probably realize why Bryan Kohberger chose this route. He chose it because there are no vehicles out here. Now, here's the thing. This portion here isn't in dispute. This is where Bryan Kohberger, his phone pinged. This is where law enforcement believes he drove. Now, I guess you could argue that maybe he took a different route on the way back. This is just what's in the probable cause document. However, it's based on Bryan Kohberger's phone ping. Now, if you're going to argue that somebody stole his phone and drove that, well, then we have nothing to discuss. But if you're going to admit, which Bryan Kohberger seems to do, that he was driving around late at night, generally in the area, I think, because he wouldn't even be admitting that at all, except for he knows that law enforcement has a way to verify it's his vehicle at certain points, so wants to say, yes, I'm being honest, I was just driving around. Okay, so his phone is pinging in these areas right here, and he's driving around. So, where is he? He's in the middle of nowhere. And the thing is, he chose this route because he wanted to avoid being seen. And what a great route it is for not wanting to be seen or being seen at all. Doesn't look like my red dot is updated in a while, but it will at some point here. And I believe this is Thorn Creek Road we're about to get to here. And there it is. Now this might be one of the places, yeah, right here. This is one of the places where I started to turn right, and I did go right, but I came back and I took a left, and I picked it up right after I took a left right there. So I drove by it, and as I was driving by that same intersection, I spliced that back in. So I took a left, and I make all the errors in a short amount of time because there's these roads all over the place. I should have realized that I wasn't supposed to turn left there, but I was supposed to turn right, or I was supposed to turn left there, but I should have realized that when I was there. And then right there I was supposed to turn right, but I continued forward, so I just came back, turned in, and then edited that back together. So this is what it looks like on that route there. Now the conspiracy theorists will go, oh, you're editing it to make it look like he's more rural. No, okay, I'm not one of those types of people. All right, I literally put out the factual information. So this route is the route, and I keep the time consistent up there. It's 5 in the morning, 5:01 and 34 seconds. But again, just look at, there isn't a soul. Very rarely do you drive by a house, and when you do, the house is a long ways away. So 5:01, almost 5:02 now. And I think pretty soon we go through a little town, or I wouldn't call it a town, just a farm with homes on both sides of the road. Yeah, I think this is it right here. Coming up, and we'll be going on to Bauer Road, B-A-U-E-R Road. And we come through here. I think this is another place where I think I turned right there. But in this case, I can edit it where it went right there. You can see the same trees and everything in the background. So I took a right, then I came back, and then took another right to get onto this, and then I just spliced it back together there. So here we go. It's going to keep going forward here. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to turn there, but had some navigating help there, and we just kept on going. If anybody knows an app out there, let me know where you can literally plot out the route you want to take. You know, those mapping programs always try to get you somewhere the fastest. I want to do one. I want to have an app where I can just say I want to go here, I want to go there next, and I want to go there next, and I want to go there next, and then hit go, and then it starts telling you which direction to go to get onto that exact route that you want to go. Because you don't want to have to, if you're driving in the middle of nowhere, you'd have to have cell phone connection again to say, now get me to the corner of Johnson and Washington Street or something, right? You just want to have it all in there already so that the satellites just keep you on the right path. I don't know, I haven't been able to find that yet. If somebody knows that app, let me know in the comments section. But also let me know what you think about this. I mean, doesn't it seem really obvious that whoever took this route, I believe it's Bryan Kohberger, because it's his phone that's doing this. Now, you might think it's a carrier pigeon flying above a white Elantra. I don't know, but you know, you'd have to believe the carrier pigeon was actually holding Bryan Kohberger's phone. Unbelievable what those birds can do now. Okay, so we just went out of that town, and I'm not sure if you call it a town, it's just a farm there. And we're still on Bower Road here, and we basically stay on Bower Road most of the way, all the way to Highway 195, just south of Colton. You can definitely tell this is farming land here. But man, I can see why people want to live out here. I mean, this is just, man, waking up in the morning and just feeling like peace. Unbelievable. I mean, even if it was snowing in the summertime, doesn't matter what time it is, very few people take these roads here. I think this might be where a dog comes running out. It was wild. This dog just came running out to stop my car. Let's see if you can see it on the left here. There it is. Ooh, God, he made me nervous. And then I looked behind me and he ran after my car down the road. So it makes you think, man, hardly anybody travels on this road. Interestingly, though, look what time it is right here. So that means it likely only took, 15, to 20 minutes to cross using that route there, right? The cutoff route from 95 to 195, where you avoid any larger towns or anything like that. So in a moment here, we're going to get to Highway 195. Yeah, I believe it was about 450 when we cut across. And you know what I think he did? I think he probably, once he got through here, he turned his cell phone off again. This is my opinion. Doesn't mean it's true, but he knew that 195 is coming up. And maybe he even waited until he got to 195. Because once he gets to 195, he doesn't need any more mapping assistance. He can just drive up 195 and it takes him into town. He would, however, need to remember to take a right on, I think it's Kuykendall Road, and that ends with his vehicle. Well, it doesn't really end there, but his vehicle is spotted at, I think it's 5:25 on a surveillance camera, and right now it's 5:07 and 45 seconds. So we're almost to Highway 195 here. Yeah, I think I paused there for a minute. I think I edited out a lot of it. Just trying to clean the windows for your viewing pleasure. And we're about to turn right on Highway 195. There we go. And there should be a town of Colton coming up next. He does go through that one, but that's why he could probably turn his phone on now. But maybe he didn't even turn it on there. Maybe he went through Colton and then turned his phone on. Don't know. But if he turned it on now, he could just pretend that he was driving on 195 the whole time. But he must have known that when he turned his phone on at 448 south of Blaine, that wasn't good. But I think he brought his phone. A lot of people think that he brought his phone, or I should say, a lot of people think that he wouldn't have brought his phone if he was really that smart as a criminology student, doctorate student even. And I think that he brought it because it's pitch dark out there and he would need a way to get back home if he got lost. And I can just tell you, in the middle of the night, if you don't have your phone as a backup over there, you would absolutely get lost out there. You could be driving for a long time. Although a lot of the roads head to similar places at different times, but he didn't want to make mistakes and drive far out of the way in different locations, giving himself a longer amount of time to be spotted. And he wanted to get home before it got light outside, right? Like he literally, I mean, you're looking at 5:30. It might have gotten light. You know, I don't know what time daylight was that day, but I would imagine maybe half hour, 30 minutes, 35, 45 minutes later, it's probably light outside. But don't quote me on that. I didn't look it up. I just thought of it right then. And so if he got lost out there, it would start getting closer and closer to light time and the time of day where people start moving around. You know, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, people are doing things, you know. So, currently heading up the highway here. And I think this is where I do another red dot, because I remember that house right there. And there we go. We're north of Colton. Gonna drive by Wawiwi Road. I think we already did that actually. And there aren't really any roads coming up that we cross for a while. They're just mainly driveways to various locations. I think the next road might be North Meyer Road that we drive by once we start kind of curving around to the right. So on the map here it would be like right around, right up in this point on the map right here is where that road is. And that's North Meyer Road. But even on 195, there isn't really a lot of buildings right next to the road that are going to pick up anything down in these areas. And 95 is the same as well. The 95 is the highway you take south of Moscow, and 195 is the highway that you could head south out of Pullman or north into Pullman. But this is, you know, you can see it on the map over there. It does this huge sort of U-shaped loop, and then there's a road that goes between Pullman and Moscow. So you could just spend the whole day going around in a circle if you wanted to, but who the hell would want to do that? And if you're somebody out there that's watching this, and I'd say Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to comment in the comment section. And again, if you could hit that like button really quick for me, that'd be great. I hope you're appreciating the content here. This is something that you're not going to see on any other channel or news network, because most people aren't going to, they don't believe that you'd want to take the time to watch an entire route, but I think it's important to put that information out there. There might be somebody out there that gets an idea off of it, perhaps even in that earlier portion where he might have put stop for 16 minutes. I mean, we don't know what the reasoning is that there are 13 to 16 minutes of missing time. I'm always assuming, though, that early on he would have wanted to get rid of the bloody knife and bloody clothing so that if he happened to be pulled over, he wouldn't have any of those items with him. So you would think that as quickly as possible he would have figured out a place to put those items, but it was a place that was off the main road a ways, because it took 16 minutes or so, right? I mean, it's not like you just drove right off the side of the road and put him in a hole and filled it up. You would have been gone in 3 minutes. This seems like something off the beaten path. Then he came back to Highway 95 and then continued on south, and that's why he pinged at 4:48. He turned his phone on. If you notice that he turns his phone on just prior, 2 minutes prior to making the turn on Borgen Road that heads across into the dirt road, cut off all the way to 195. Don't you find that interesting? That his phone pings right when he turns it on, because he needs to have the mapping program on to make it across, and he definitely didn't want to go through those two towns. Now here's a cell tower right here. I believe this one is the one near Johnson, Washington. So this might be where, I think this is the location near where at 5:32 to 5:36 he turned it on later in the afternoon. However, there's also a cell tower east of Johnson that he could have also pinged on, and then at that time he could have been closer to Highway 95 when his phone pinged off that tower. So that's an interesting element. Is that the location near Johnson, east of Johnson, and then closer to Highway 95, pinging off that other tower up on that peak in the middle there. There's a tower, I believe, sort of in this area somewhere, and that's close to Highway 95. But what if he turned off for a moment in this area, got rid of those items, and then came back and then drove down, and then he turns his phone on. Now it's 4:48 because he took some time to drive into here. Pinged off, I guess it pinged off the tower though at 4:48 though, right? But that's the Blaine Tower. That has nothing to do with Johnson. But what I'm saying is, like, the Johnson at 5:32 and 5:36 later in the evening, did he drive somewhere over here where he did something with the knife and the bloody clothing? And that location here is associated with the missing 16 minutes coming down. So he comes over, let's just say he comes in this area earlier, and then he gets back onto Highway 95, and now it's 4:48. And then later in the evening, when he gets there at 5:32 to 5:36, he then goes out to that same area, because he turns his phone on again because he needs mapping to get through these roads that go into here, and then he collects those items again, and then he comes back out and then turns his phone off again, obviously because it only went from 5:32 to 5:36, and he's in an area where there's a couple cell towers, so he just needed it really quick to use it for mapping. I mean, it's all pretty interesting to try to figure out, but sometimes I wonder if he stopped somewhere in this area right here, and when he did that, he took those 16 minutes to dispose of something, and then when he came back around from Clarkston, Washington later, and he's up here at 5:32 to 5:36, he then goes this direction, collects those items, or does something else with them, and he's back in this area because there's a cell tower right around in this area here. And that's why it pinged at 5:32 to 5:36. And that explains why there's 17 minutes or 16 minutes of missing time on the route south out of Moscow, Idaho to get to Borgen Road. Hopefully that made sense right there. I tried to explain it a few different times there, just to hopefully one of them was I said the way that made more sense to somebody. Okay. So we don't have much more time here. It's 5:19 right now. And like I said before, it does take a right on Kuykendall Road. And that's another seemingly intentional route. I think Highway 195 is actually quicker to his house. But he turns on Kuykendall Road, which is another dirt road, and then he gets on Johnson Avenue. So, I mean, it's just really interesting. Here's Kuykendall Road right here. And look what time it is, 5:19 and 36 seconds. Doesn't this road look familiar now? Another dirt road, nobody around, no really good reason to take it. If you look at the map right here, 195 goes right into Pullman, and you can get right home over here. But instead he takes this right on Kuykendall, and then he sort of shows up into this area. He is spotted right there, and then just kind of makes his way back to his house. His phone pings at 5:30 in Pullman. So is that when he turned it on again finally? And then he took that other back route because he believes there was less cameras on Kuykendall. And then he turns his phone back on at 5:30 in the morning. Like I said before, I don't think he needed to have his phone on 195. He merely had to remember where Kuykendall Road was. That's the only thing he had to remember. Then you turn on that, and then this road, Kuykendall, goes to a T in the road, and you would just have to remember you turn left. And after you turn left, you're going to be heading right into the Johnson Washington camera, or excuse me, the Johnson Avenue camera location. That's 5:20 and 5:21. What do you guys think about that? Don't you think that these routes are completely intentional to try to avoid as much exposure to cameras as possible? And his phone turning on and off at various times. You know, like I was just telling you about a minute ago, the 5:32 to 5:36, and that's PM. When he left from Clarkson, Washington earlier, he goes to, his phone pings near Johnson, Washington in the evening on the same day though. So almost 12 hours after this right here, his phone's pinging in Johnson, Washington after already being in Clarkston, Washington. And then he heads on up, and then he turns it on just for a moment to get that mapping information again. And then he turns it off. And then he gets back onto Highway 195 and heads back into town. But I believe that on this route early in the morning here, when I think he turned off at 4:50 is what it was, and he turned on Borgen Road, and then he made his way to 195. Once he hit 195, he turned his phone off and never turned it on again until he was in Pullman. Then he turned it on basically when he's about home, just to be like, hey, this is where I've been the whole time. The only thing he would have had to remember was Kuykendall and to turn left right here. I guess it's around the corner here, excuse me. Yeah, right here. This is where the T is. At the stop sign. Up, another rolling stop, you guys. Oh boy. And here we go. We're turning and making our way onto Johnson Avenue. I think we might even be on that now. I don't remember if it then turns into another road. Let me go look on a side map here. Yeah, this is already Johnson Avenue here. So after we turned left, we were on Johnson Avenue, and that's in a little area called Busby. And so we're on Johnson Avenue. Look at this. 0 possibilities of being caught on a camera at this point. He must have not figured that there was one in one of those businesses that could film him when he was just driving by from a distance. So now we're at 524. And the probable cause says that at 5:25, he spotted on Johnson Avenue. And that was at, I think it's 1300 Johnson Avenue at 5:25. And that's where we're going to be pulling over. I'm going to show you in the video where the cameras are. I'm not going to stop the video, though, just for the timing's sake, but you'll see that on the building, if you can make it out, there's 2 cameras, one on the left, one on the right. But don't you think that's amazing? That at 4:48, once his phone pinged and he turned it on, the driving was totally consistent and there's no missing time. Right when he turned it on. That should mean something to people. Bryan Kohberger turns his phone on at 4:48 and had a completely consistent driving time after that. Alright, so it's 5:25. Actually, I hadn't thought of that particular verbiage until just then. I think that's absolutely important. That means prior to that he was doing other things, and now he needs to get back, so he turns his phone on, and then the car drives at a totally rational, normal pace. So here it is right here. So it's 5:25 and 35 seconds. See how absolutely perfect that is? And then on the left-hand side right there, there's a camera right below that window. You can barely see it there. And then there's another camera right there as I'm spinning away fast on the building there. So that camera picked up the white Elantra driving through. I mean, that's amazing police work to have found all of these. The ones that they did use. And then the vehicle continues to travel on Johnson Avenue here. And in a moment here, the video will stop it. Apparently you can still see a little bit on the camera that the vehicle's going in this direction, and then based on other camera sightings at 5:25, there might even be a camera over here that saw him, and then when he's driving up through the neighborhood there, his vehicle is also spotted multiple times, and then his phone turns on at 5:30. It pings. Okay, so it's just right here the video stops, okay, because he took a left there. He took a left right there, and I'm taking a right heading back to Moscow. He would have taken a left to go back home at that time in the morning. And then at 9 in the morning, he drove to Moscow, Idaho to check out his handiwork. And having seen none, he drove back home. And then later in the day, went to Clarkston, Washington, via Lewiston, Idaho. And then after that, he headed back up north. And that was around like 1 o'clock or so, right? And then when he headed back up north, his phone pinged at 5:32 to 5:36 near Johnson, Washington. It's pretty crazy. So if you go back a little bit to that, it pinged right around in that area right there. And we just explained that a few minutes ago. 5:32 and 5:36 p.m. All right, so maybe we'll do one on that information later. I think in my mind I'm sort of narrowing down where the 17 minutes or 16 minutes of missing time was. Okay, So if you could all leave a comment in the comment section, that would be great. And if you could also hit that like button for me, that would be awesome. And hit the subscribe button. And thank you all very much for watching. I hope you appreciate these types of videos. I'm trying to put out the factual information without the conspiratorial viewpoint. Okay, I'm using the probable cause document and the information that was in it and other, reported information out there that's factual, and I'm trying to basically I'm combating the narrative that was developed by so many people when there was a void of logical, rational thinking in this case. Okay, I hope you guys are appreciating these videos and the time it's taking. And again, thank you very much for watching. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.